Welcome back to your Passion, Purpose, and Personal Brand. Today I'm going to talk about something that kind of crept up on me. And if you haven't noticed, it seemed like this year the time is passing so much more quickly. I don't know if it's because all of the things that are happening in the world, you think about all these systems that have been in place for the last 250 years are starting to disintegrate and break down all around us. And so people are pushing back. We're trying to figure out what's going on. There's a lot of distractions. It could be that we're so focused on the past or looking at the future that we're not spending any time worrying about what is right in front of us, looking and being present with what is in front of us that day. It could be that we're all extraordinarily busy and we just haven't had the time to reflect on what's happening. But whatever the reason, there are things that we do that we put things in place and later on look and take a step back and look at what did we do? How did this happen? And so today I want to share an example of this and how I became an accidental speaker. Now, I think it's worth noting that I never set out to be a speaker. What's interesting is I am the firstborn in my family, and I was the only child for 3 years before my sister showed up. So if you've ever been an only child or an only child, they get a lot of attention, and that was what was happening. So when my sister came on the scene, I quickly learned it wasn't all about me, and that by stepping back into the background, into the shadows, there was a place where I could do what I wanted and do my own thing, have my own playground, be my own person, not having to follow any rules or have anyone judge or criticize me if I didn't share what I was doing. And so what happened is my parents ended up having 3 children within 4 years. So by the time I was 5 and close to being eligible to go to first grade, I missed the cutoff by 23 days, right? So the cutoff was the first of the month. My birthday was 23 days later. And my mom was really at her wit's end with all of these children. And so I got to go to school and take a test with the psychologist, and I got an early ticket to join first grade. Now, you may think, oh, that's a good thing because you were smart enough for school. Well, I may have been cognitively ready, but I was not socially, emotionally, or physically ready. In my first grade class picture, I'm sitting in the front row and the only one with my shoes untied because I had not yet learned to tie my shoes. I was not developmentally ready for that. And as a result, I performed well academically, but I spent most of my time kind of shying away from my peers because I would get teased because I was demonstrating behaviors of someone who was younger. I learned to be that worker in the background, the high performer who could get a lot done and come to the rescue if you needed it. And by high school, I did step into several leadership roles within clubs, but I was never comfortable being in the spotlight. So you may find it interesting that my career choice when I came out of college was to be a teacher. But it wasn't about being in front of a group of students. My why that was driving me was because I loved learning so much. I wanted to share that love of learning with a classroom full of students. It's much different being in front of a classroom full of students that you are responsible for guiding than to be on a stage in front of a group of your peers. So part of my training to become that teacher required me to take a speech class in college. I still remember it. Speech 201, sophomore year, winter quarter, Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 3:15 p.m. Decades later, I still remember this. The class requirements were to give 5 different types of speeches. From the very first day, I was terrified. But I got through it in front of this class of 20 sophomores. I can't tell you what the 5 speeches were, but I can tell you remembering getting physically ill before every time it was my turn to speak. Now, I will tell you 20 years later, fast forward to the time when I was one of the founders of a private college prep school here in Atlanta. And as a member of the leadership team and the director of admissions and marketing, I was expected to speak frequently in front of crowds. Hundreds of people who came for an open house, dozens of people who came for an admission tour. I was also expected to give the State of the Enrollment speech at the annual State of the School event. And it was through repetition that I learned to overcome my fear of public speaking. And I will tell you that today I still feel nervous, but I take that nervousness and interpret it as the excitement of what I'm going to be able to deliver to people. So in my business, one of the roles I take is I serve as a fractional CMO to help companies who need a strategic partner to help them understand why their current marketing isn't working and what they can do about it. I'm also a messaging strategist to help both entrepreneurs and companies know the right thing, to be able to tell the right story when those big opportunities come. I often take on the role of a guide, a mentor, a teacher, which means that I occasionally give a workshop, a lunch and learn presentation, or even a keynote. So a few weeks ago, I was looking at my calendar and I was really shocked because now, between now and the end of the year, I have 6 speaking engagements and several podcast interviews lined up. So I got curious, why did you not know this? How did this happen? So I'm going to attribute it to several things of how I ended up becoming an accidental speaker. First and foremost, I believe my podcast has something to do with it. For the last 141 weeks, I have been consistently showing up in your earbuds on the podcast players and most recently here on YouTube. So if people are listening to a podcast, there's something special that happens, especially if you're a consistent listener, because you develop a relationship with the person who is speaking to you on the podcast. As you think about it, you have earbuds that go directly to your ears. It's a very intimate space where they're speaking directly into your brain. So that connection is made between your voice and directly into their minds. And when you think about it, the majority of podcasts don't have paid sponsors. So when you think of a podcast, the benefit of it is people getting to know what you do, people understanding this is who I need to connect you with. I have conversations with people who probably wouldn't speak to me otherwise if I did not have a platform to help feature their story and be able to communicate to this audience of things that align with your passion, purpose, and personal brand. So that's one reason I believe why I'm getting speaking invitations. The second is because of my increased presence on LinkedIn. Now, if you've heard me here before or you watched my post on LinkedIn, I kind of fell into this. I started posting regularly here at the beginning of 2024. Monday through Friday, I was going to do 90 days of content because that's truly all you need, 90 days. The chances of people seeing every post you make over 90 days because of the algorithm is very minimal. So you take those 90 days and then the next time you post, you repurpose those, you tweak it a little bit, you shift it, but you've got that core 90 day of content. Well, what happened at the end of 90 days is I was hooked. I loved creating content for a couple of reasons. One is when I created content, it helped me understand what I believed in. And when you post, when you do that, people start really connecting with some of your content. And you know that a lot of times I end up posting stories. I tell stories of things that connect to the human condition with deeper thoughts and bigger ideas. I also believe we can build stronger personal brands when we are firm in what we stand for and very firm in what we don't stand for. People get to know who we are when we not only share our expertise, but also our point of view. And the extra finesse is when you can add your personality. So when you do share those stories about what did and didn't go well and what you can learn on the other side to help others achieve, that is another way to get to know people better. But the icing on the cake is within your stories, if you can share a little bit of how people were treated, so those listeners can understand your character of what it's like to do business with you. That is the best part. A third reason I think I'm getting more speaking requests is by giving value wherever I go. I'm a member of several networking groups and mastermind groups. And when I have a chance, when we get to contribute, I always try to give extraordinary value. Same thing with networking coffees. If you have a networking coffee with me, I am not there to pitch my services. My goal is to understand, what do you do? Who do you need to meet? And how can I connect you to them? So that is trying to give value. And many of times in those conversations, what will happen? Someone will share something and I'll ask if I can provide an insight, something that I see they may not be aware of. I may ask them a question that makes them think differently about their business or an idea they can use to find another connection. So the fourth reason I believe why I'm getting these speaking invites is to make sure others know that you are a speaker. So when I do have a speaking event, when I am on a podcast, I make sure I share that on social media. I make sure I talk about it so people know, oh, Lisa speaks. And actually, a couple of my speaking requests I have between now and the end of the year came as a result of people who know that I am a speaker and introduced me to the person who was interested in having that service. So that means being more visible, attending the right networking events, and being part of groups that challenge you to get uncomfortable. Keep learning and being curious about things you don't know, because when you are interested, that's when you become interesting. Being interested makes you interesting. And another reason to become more visible are the opportunities that come. So last week I was speaking with a coach who is doing all of the right things, but he's hesitating on the being visible part. And I get it. I was there one time. It could be hard to put yourself out there, especially when others have told us we should be doing it. Yes, I know I should be, but why do I not feel comfortable doing it? Hesitating being visible is a natural reaction. But let me give you a thought if you're one of those people who are afraid to show up on video. When you provide a service, people aren't hiring you only for what you do. They're actually hiring you for two reasons. Yes, they believe that you can provide the solution to their problem, this transformation they so desperately seek. But they're also hiring you because you have established a sense that you can be trusted. That means you have to increase your ability to earn that trust when people get to sample you. They need to sample your energy. They need to sample your expertise, that point of view, and the connection with who you are as a human. And the other part of this is it isn't about you. It's about the person looking for you. I guarantee right now there is someone out there who is desperately looking for the solution that you can provide to the problem they have. And if you aren't making yourself visible, then how can they find you? So that's it for this week, how I fell into becoming an accidental speaker. I actually love speaking. I love sharing knowledge. I love seeing the aha moments and the insights when the light bulbs come on from the audience. So if you do need a speaker and are interested in having a conversation, just reach out to me and we can see if what I have is a good fit. I'll also be speaking at several networking events and other platforms here in Atlanta, and also at the Story Brand Summit at the end of October. So if you're interested in attending an event, please reach out to me. And I don't want to end this episode without giving last week's opportunity a shout out. And that is when I appeared on Michelle Griffin's Standout Woman show on LinkedIn, where I talked about the process of reinvention. So I had a great conversation with her. I'm going to put the link in the show notes so you can make sure that you can catch that interview. And if you're interested about reinvention while we're on that topic, be sure to reach out to get my Reimagine You quiz. It's free, completely free. You can take the quiz and find out which of the 4 Reimagine You styles fit within you learning about taking your next steps. And the results, when you get those, you get a 10-page guide, you get a Spotify playlist, and you get a library of podcasts to help you on your journey, all custom designed for your style. So until next week, go chase your passion. It will help reveal your purpose and lead you to discover that personal brand of integrity. It's the one that will attract the right people who want to work with you and help you on the path to find your legendary self. We'll see you next week.